All right, so the first major domino has fallen in the NFL 2021 offseason. Matthew Stafford is supposedly going to get traded to the Los Angeles Rams for Jared Goff. So I just found this out about 10-15 minutes ago. This is going to be my 7-minute reaction to this news. What this could mean for both teams and the other teams that are looking for quarterbacks as well. And then also, I'll talk a little bit about fantasy football and some implications of that too for both these teams. So here's the trade. So Matthew Stafford is going to be going to the Los Angeles Rams, for Jared Goff, third round 2021 pick, first round 2022 pick, and a first round 2023 pick. So they're getting two first round picks, a third round pick, and Jared Goff. So, first of all, this is a great deal for Los Angeles because they were in a bad situation already where they had Jared Goff, who's proven at this point that he's about a mediocre quarterback, and they were stuck in a situation where they were still going to have to pay him for multiple seasons at a high salary, still try to build a competent team around him, but he hasn't exactly inspired confidence in the coaching staff and in the general management. There were some comments put out within the last few weeks that really shows that they're not exactly committed to him. They're going to evaluate all options on the table. Doesn't look good on his part in terms of job security. They were also experimenting with John Wolford as quarterback and were also, again, non-committal about whether or not they were going to go with Wolford or Goff in the postseason. So being able to move off of him for all that money to get Matt Stafford, who's a better quarterback, that's an excellent deal. So really just incredible value there for the Rams. I'm really kind of surprised they managed to pull this off, especially as early as it is. It's not even the Super Bowl yet, and we've already got news of a trade. So, I mean, I imagine in all likelihood this won't be official until March or something like that once the actual NFL season is over. But this really does a lot for the Rams because the Rams are a team that their biggest flaw this season was inconsistency at the quarterback position, inconsistency on offense. And with Stafford, it really opens up your playbook more for long bomb threats. That's one of the things that he's excelled at in Detroit. They don't necessarily have great personnel for that, maybe. I think Robert Woods is probably their best deep threat guy. Currently, Cooper Kupp is more of a slot type of receiver. But it's gonna really benefit their offense. So with the defense they already have, this team is gonna definitely be competing for some is definitely going to be a contender in the NFC next year. Talk about the NFC West. It's going to be insane next year. You've got the Seahawks. They've got some of their issues they're working out. We'll have to see what happens with them. But the Rams are going to be good. The 49ers are going to be healthy again. Remember, just went to the Super Bowl. They're going to be They could potentially be looking for a quarterback upgrade as well. And then Arizona kind of fell apart down the stretch, but they were competitive too. So very competitive division. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. For the Lions, I don't really know too much of what's going to happen with their quarterback future. So they've got Jared Goff there now, but there's, I think, a strong possibility they could still draft a quarterback and then see if Jared Goff is going to be the answer by competing with a rookie. I don't know if they're going to necessarily go after Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, something like that in the first round anymore because now they have Goff. At least they've got a little bit of a solution for now. But I think that's within the realm of possibility that they could have one of those guys and Goff on the roster and then have a competition. But Detroit, for Jared Goff, I don't really like Detroit as a environment for him to thrive as a quarterback because Detroit has a lot of roster issues. They could potentially be losing their best receiver, Kenny Golladay, in the offseason. Their running back, DeAndre Swift, is talented, but Detroit's line is not necessarily great. So Matthew Stafford was a guy who was able to keep them competitive even though the roster around him was bad. Goff is very much the opposite, where he needs to have a good roster around him in order to be successful. So I don't know how well it's going to go, but they did get a lot of draft picks out of this trade, which was beneficial for them. But given that the Rams are going to be competitive, I don't know how high those picks are actually going to be. So maybe it could work out for Detroit. It did work out. They get a starting level quarterback, but they've got a lot of work to do on their roster. So for Detroit, we'll see how this turns out, but I think this pretty much signals that Detroit is going to be focusing on a rebuild. So we'll talk about fantasy in the last minute of this video. I actually don't really like Matt Stafford too much in fantasy with this addition because I generally go for running quarterbacks. I don't necessarily go for a guy like Matt Stafford because he's not really going to be a threat to run the ball. And especially when he was on Detroit, he's not really in a position where he's going to necessarily get a lot of touchdowns, even though he could throw for a lot of yards. That could change with the Rams, but the Rams still are a very run-heavy focused team. So I think Stafford is in a position where he potentially could be overdrafted this offseason in the fantasy football draft. But this addition is a plus for guys like Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee. All could potentially have better stats this coming season with a guy like Stafford at quarterback. For Detroit, I think for the most part, everybody on offense, this is a downgrade. For DeAndre Swift owners, I think this hurts him because you don't have Stafford there to spread the field out. But it's still a little early to tell with Detroit. A lot of this is going to depend on if Kenny Golladay stays or leaves, but I think there's a good chance that he goes. So, yeah, that's my short reaction. Stay tuned for more videos on this.